We cut the legs off of our pants, threw our shoes into the ocean, sit back and wave through the daylight, sit back and wave through the daylight, sit and slide on subway grades, these shoes are poor man's ice skates, fall through like change in the daylight, fall through like change in the daylight, I miss yellow lines in my road, some color on my metro, maybe I'll paint them in myself, maybe I'll paint them in myself, maybe I'll paint them in myself. The nighttime. Step back and here comes the nighttime. Daylight, we could hitchhike to Maine. I hope that someday I'll see without these frames. And in the daylight, I don't pick up my phone. 'Cause in the daylight, anywhere feels like home.
Hello, and welcome to the first ever State of the League. My name is Darth Ted, your third favorite Sith, and joining me today is Zabel, my co-host.
Hello.
He's the jungler for Infernal, hasn't actually played a game yet, but he's so sick.
So hype.
So sick.
And joining me also are Shadow of Old, the top laner for the Merc Wolves.
And soon to be mid laner. Hey, how you doing?
Soon
The
to be
show
mid
for the
laner.
Merc Wolves.
What can't he play? And the support for Team Airdrake, Season 3 MVP, Season 3 champion himself, Cop.
Hey, how's it going? MVP, I don't know about that, but still.
Yeah, misspoke.
Take
on
all the
that.
compliments I can get.
All right. So basically, how this is going to work is you see the topic list on the right-hand side of the screen. We're just going to go through a quick run-through of last week's games, and then going to talk about this week's Sunday games, and then we're going to talk about how the meta is going to be shifting due to the 9.4 patches. And then just going to do a live Q&A afterwards for anyone in Twitch chat that wants to ask us any questions and thoughts on anything. Wait, so am I too loud or too quiet? I don't know what that means.
You are too quiet, apparently.
Way too quiet. All right. Well, we'll fix that. So the first game I actually want to talk about is the first game that happened. Brambleback versus Merc Wolves. Can you give us a little synopsis, Zabel?
So, Brambleback versus Merc Wolves. I would say the highlight, for me at least, I know some people might disagree. I think leaving the Poppy open in both games was something that led to a lot of early pressure created by Paco. If you look at the first game at about 7:30 in, there's a dragon call by Merc Wolves, which doesn't look too bad, but their team kind of splits. Raka gets called out early, and the jungler actually ends up dying for Merc Wolves before the drag's low enough to smite. Yasuo is able to ult and jump out of the pit onto Ashe, but that kind of isolates his team, and then Poppy kills their AD carry and takes the dragon, and then the rest of them end up dying too, including the top lane TP. And then I think that was the start of the snowball for Brambleback in that first game. Yes, we do.
I think that based on results, it was clearly a mistake. They 2-0'd. He was a very instrumental part of their win. But I also feel like there were other champions that would have done the exact same thing in that scenario. And instead of worrying about that he's good at the pick, we should have been worrying about our own play and playing better around ourselves, which they could have.
Well, we have a trash talk segment later on, but apparently we can't stop him from trash talking his own team. Yeah, well, I don't know. Personally, I think Bramble played really well, and they looked extremely coordinated. And can you actually walk us through? There's one fight early on at the Dragon where Toxic Vezin stayed on the Infernal Drake. Quaz and your mid laner ended up pulling off to try to, fight the opponents. And that's when Poppy got his first triple kill. Can you talk us through what your communication was like during that fight? I don't know. One sec, can you hold up? Yeah, sorry about that.
To see if mine is working or not too.
No, it's on my end.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you should be good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were trying to finish the dragon. We didn't burst it down as quickly as we thought we would. And then after we didn't kill dragon fast enough, our jungler should have smited dragon because their jungler was nowhere near, and tried to smite dragon just for the health to stay alive in the fight longer. But we didn't get the smite down on the dragon. I don't actually know how I didn't steal it. I W'd it at like 150 health. Feel like I should have killed it, but and then after that, everything was just awful. We, as you said, our bot lane got soloed out by their support, and it kind of just all went downhill from there. Wasn't really too much good. Everything was bad. after we didn't get the smite onto the dragon to keep our jungler alive.
All right. What else do you think you could have done better in the game, I guess?
I should have been bullying top a little bit harder. Their jungler came top at level 2, and I was our way into the late game. We had the hyperscaling Yasuo, hyperscaling Kai'Sa. We needed to get me a little bit farther ahead so that I could use my advantage to get to the late game, and then let our late game carries carry, because Soraka, Kai'Sa, Yasuo, Warwick, that kind of seems like it's impossible to lose in late game there, but we just never got there. So it's kind of hard to say. We just kind of needed to play a lot safer, understand that we had the late game and get to the late game, and we just never got to the late game with a late game comp. So
Gotcha.
it's hard to take too much from it, besides we needed to scale and we didn't scale.
And you were talking about your actual lane matchup. So your opponent was Enraged Ovarian. Last season, the season before, and the one before that, he was always a jungler. But this season, he switched over to the top lane. Can you tell us what it felt like facing against him in his debut games?
Well, I feel like he did very well. He picked a champion that's impossible to lose on, and he did about as well as that champion can possibly do. And I suppose that's credit to him for me not banning it. But he played the matchup as well as you can. There's not really much outplay potential for the Scion. You exist, and he existed very well. So I'd give him a nice solid B plus on his first few games.
There you have it. Congratulations for existing, Enraged Ovary, if you were listening to this. All right. I think we'll just move right into the next games then. Gromp versus Scuttle.
Did we touch on game 2 for Merc versus Bramble?
Not really.
No, never
I can
mind.
touch on it. I can touch on it quickly.
I think you guys looked a lot better in game 2. The problem for me that I saw, at least as far as what I noticed, was their jungler had a lot of early pressure. He had, in the first 5 minutes, I think, 2 ganks that were successful. One was bot lane, and he got a kill with a really nice pillar, and the one was on mid lane. Cassiopeia actually picked up the kill. I feel that more early jungle pressure from your team, maybe like focusing bot lane a little more, because you guys were super immobile, would have helped you out as
Yes,
far as not getting snowballed on.
I definitely agree with that, and we should have been trying to play around bot lane more. And now that we've played a little bit more, our communication is a little bit better. That was originally the goal, is we had the Azir and the Malphite for the late game, and the MF for the early game, but we didn't play around bot lane as well as we should have. And it did look better, but yeah, not enough practice, not enough communication is really the big issue there.
Yeah, that's something we're going to see in the first week anyway. A lot of teams didn't get as much practice as some other teams. So, I mean, that's always going to work out those kinks in the first week, and then you can come out stronger with the roster change. I believe that everyone knows about that for this weekend.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I got a question actually, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm just sort of curious with Quaz and Timberland. It actually seemed like they weren't really actively leaving lane, which was kind of surprising, especially because I believe one of the games he might have had Thresh, but it was like Quaz. Game 2, yeah. Both of them had Quaz was the second least in kill participation, and Timberland was actually the least, which for having Thresh seems awfully odd. I'm just curious, like, was the game plan sort of like to have Thresh sort of just protect the AD carry, or was it to just sort of a miscommunication on that part?
It was a bit of miscommunication. Our mid lane, I mean, as you mentioned, Zabel, because of the jungle pressure early, our mid lane and bot lane were both a little bit behind, and we didn't have good enough communication between our jungler and them there. So it's a little bit hard to make roaming plays when you have no idea where the jungler is, and both you and the lane you go to are behind. So it's mostly just a miscommunication is really what it was.
Yeah, as a jungler, it feels really bad trying to gank a lane that's already behind. You feel like you can't really gank without just causing a fight that's going to lead to more kills for the winning lane. So, yeah, it's tough for if you don't get those early ganks off in a jungler like Warwick, you will fall behind if the enemy is able to get early ganks off, and then your ganks just feel comparatively much weaker.
All right. Anybody else have questions about those games?
How soon until I can forget that they happened?
I believe you have 1 or 2 more days before that can happen.
Okay,
And
good to know.
yeah, on to the next losses for you, right?
Oh shit! That talk segments later.
We'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see about that.
All right, and the next series we had was the Gromp versus my own team of Scuttle Crab. Zabel, would you mind walking us through game 1?
Oh man, okay. I don't have much on game 1 because it was such a fucking stomp. Aldoma was able to get in the first 7 minutes 2 solo kills. One was onto the, I think actually 2 were onto the Malphite, and then he actually killed Vi after a failed gank attempt. At that point, you're 3-0 in less than 10 minutes. I mean, there's not really much the enemy team can do to you if you're 3-0 and you're Swain, and it's 10 minutes into the game. So that I don't know how much I can really analyze that. It was just like Adoma playing very well, and then the bot lane also had a team fight win at about 8 minutes in, I think, and they already had a large CS and kill lead after that point. So it was just kind of, they won more after that, and they just snowballed their lead into a 4-for-1 fight, I think at around 16 minutes on the top side jungle. And they were able to establish vision control after every fight they won, especially around Baron, and then they just kind of took the Baron and pushed into blue jungle and went bot to like end the game, I think at like 23, 24 minutes. It was really fast. It just kind of looked like Gromp hadn't played with their full roster a lot, and they are having a lot of roster changes, so I do feel that because we had some of that stuff happen last year for us. So the communication is definitely going to be something they'll have to work on with their new players.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the major things you can bring out of this series if you're a Gromp fan, that they honestly had 3 last-minute roster changes just because 2 of their their platinum players couldn't show up. So you immediately lose that skill gap and the voice of the team, and now you're relying on a few members who haven't actually played together a lot. So it was kind of unfortunate that happened for them. But hopefully this weekend we can see a better showing coming out from them.
Yeah, I think my favorite moment from this series was the level 1 AFK and Tribush in game 2, where Dynamic Killer just straight up died for first blood.
We were so
I
surprised.
didn't think he saw the screen.
We walked into that bush and then just didn't notice he was there until like a second in. You could see us all just walk right past him for a little bit and then be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, if you're gonna watch that entrance, you have to at least have someone with you, or put a ward in like the middle of river so you can see if they do 5-stack to the Tribush, so you don't just die like that. And I think that also boils down to the lack of like a voice for that team with all the roster changes they had.
Yeah. I mean, I think we just caught him looking away from his screen, which was pretty unfortunate.
That feels pretty bad, but I mean, it happens.
All right. Do you want to walk us through the rest of that game too?
Echo, I guess.
Right. That's actually a really good point.
Well, so hard. He got a kill level 2 when the support and jungle died to him, actually. And I mean, they just kept leading kills all over the map. Gromp actually didn't have any wards on the enemy side of the map after, I think, 12 or 13 minutes. So they were completely blind, and the jungler could just do whatever he wanted. Gromp actually had a decent fight at around 15 minutes where they got 3 kills across mid and bot, but Echo turned it back for 2 more kills. And at that point, he was like 6-1, I think, at 15 minutes in. So he just continued to snowball from there. And the Echo Corki just skirmished the fuck out of the mid game, and they kept getting like 2-for-1 and 3-for-1 or like 2-for-0 trades for kills, and then they just ended up acing at like 21 minutes in and got the bot inhib and reset for Baron and just ended. It was pretty fast too. That was another fast game.
Yeah, really don't have much more to add than that. It just kind of felt like every lane kind of snowballed, and then we ended the game in both of them. So
Yeah, I mean, I would touch on your bot lane was super consistent in both of those games. You consistently, I think, had a CS and kill lead throughout almost the entire game. So that was something that definitely was really tough for Gromp to deal with, having their. I think Dynamic was originally playing mid or jungle, and then he rotated to support to let a higher elo player play mid. So just not really practiced on that, and the 80 carry difference in elo was pretty huge too. So that just contributed to you guys' lane dominance in bot lane.
Definitely. I mean, game 2, Chimmy was jungle, and he ended up doing really well. I think early game he had a lot of. Actually, no, that level 1 was kind of unfortunate when Braum didn't show up to lane and we just pushed
yikes.
in. Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a mistake from Dynamic Killer, not using the Braum Lucian level 1 to just try to bully the crap out of us. But
Yeah, that's one of, if not the strongest level 1s in the game. I believe Braum Lucian is super strong, so they definitely could have bullied a little more than they did. I mean, they might have just been scared from the level 1 first blood. I don't know, but yeah, they definitely could have bullied a lot more.
yeah, I mean, it seemed like Chimmy just wanted to get an experience lead, so he brought the support up thinking we wouldn't be able to rotate down on him,
Yeah,
but then we just got an advantage.
yeah, very unfortunate. I mean, when you're playing a jungler and you feel like your lanes aren't gonna win, or at the very least, if they're just gonna go even and maybe lose, instinct is just to farm it out and try to get your XP lead so maybe you can carry. So I could see if he was going for that, but it ended up not working out.
Yeah. I will say that the Ashe pick game 1 worked a lot better than we thought it was going to. Because we picked LeBlanc into it thinking that the LeBlanc's just going to one-shot him pretty much every time the Ashe steps into lane. But I don't know. I Love Isola actually played that really well. Got a huge CS lead over Endo.
Yeah, I mean, he's an 80 carry main, so I think that was just a comfort pick for him. I would have liked to see him just take Ezreal mid. Seems like a more viable mid laner, and then you can also just go AP.
Or Corki.
Yeah, or Corki, yeah.
Which is kind of why I picked that game too.
Yeah, I was confused about, because when they picked the Ezreal, I was like, sick, it's Ezreal mid, and then they just went Ashe mid, and I was like, okay.
We
But
had the
he
same
did- he did
exact
play
thought.
well.
It's like, all right, Ezreal mid, that should be okay to deal
Yeah.
with, but because I was really, honestly, a little concerned about playing Caitlyn into Ashe, just because Ashe has a lot of poke and can trade back against you. But then they picked Ezreal bot lane, and it was like, well, Ezreal really doesn't do much in lane, and Caitlyn's one of the biggest bullies, so
Yeah.
it was fairly easy to get a CS lead. But yeah, enough of that games. We'll move on to Mountain versus Air next. The most, actually, C and D. The last 2 games ended up both going 1-1 with each other.
Yeah,
So,
they were close.
Yeah, can you walk us
They
through?
were close, but they weren't close because each game was a stomp, but then they just swapped who won. That's kind of how it felt to me. Let's see, for game 1 they had Defox and Karthus, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the Karthus.
Yeah, and he ended up getting first blood on Ezreal at level 1, like less than 45 seconds into the game. So, I mean, if you can get first blood on Karthus, who's a champion who you don't expect to get any kills till after 6, it feels pretty good. On stream, played super well on the Rammus, to his credit. He created a lot of pressure mid for the Karthus, and I think he burned flash top early too. And then he just transitioned that into like a 10-minute drag fight where they pushed ahead like a 2k gold lead. Air did get dragon, but on streams Rammus was super impressive in those games. He just kept oppressing the Heimerdinger, who's like super immobile, and it's really, really hard to get out of Rammus guys with Heimerdinger.
Yeah, Unstream looked absolutely amazing on that Rammus. I was watching that game, and he was pretty much actually casting that game with you, wasn't I? And he was just all over the map.
Yeah.
It was crazy watching him gank top, then mid, then bot, then back to mid, and taking objectives every single time, every single minute.
Yeah, and I think we touched on that at 18 minutes, 4 members of Mountain had bounties, so they were all just so freaking huge. They could just basically do whatever they wanted. I mean, I think Sejuani got caught around Baron, I think at about like 26 minutes in. After Era actually made a really good Baron call. There was no vision around it for Mountain Drake, and Unstream actually face checked and died. But then Era had taken so much damage from the Baron that they actually couldn't finish it, which was super unfortunate for them because then their jungler got caught, and then Mountain just took Baron. So like I feel if Era would have, while they were doing that Baron call, established some vision around it, that would have led to Taco maybe not getting caught at like the 24-minute mark, and then Mountain being able to secure that. Because after they got Baron, they just literally rotated and won the game.
Yeah. So, Cop, how'd that game feel playing against Mountain?
Well, in the first game, it was actually the first game that our whole team had actually played together. So a lot of it was actually just us really learning to establish kind of communication with each other in many ways. The Rammus pick was very much sort of a lesson for us in that sense, where we had pretty good ward coverage when Rammus was coming to gank particular lanes. And basically, we were like calling it out, like our jungler in particular was calling it out, being like, "Hey, he's coming. You should maybe consider backing off or something like that." And instead, we just sort of greeted out a little bit, but we really did a fantastic job fixing it in the second game. But the other thing too is with the Karthus pick, actually, we weren't really suspecting them to pick it. Like he had played maybe like I think it was like 3 games with Karthus before the series had happened, and so it was a little bit on the radar, but we weren't really suspecting that. We'd figure more of like a I don't want to say like true showdown, but it seemed very poke oriented, and it was just most of it was just really growing pains for our team during that series, I would say.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Do you know what Gulen thought picking the Heimerdinger into the Karthus, though? If
Karthus was actually the last pick. We weren't like, yeah, we were picking the Heimerdinger because of just more of as a comfort pick for blind picking, but also we just remembered how well Sean played, or Gulen played, when he was in the playoffs with Heimerdinger, and we were just like, oh, okay, we're going to really look for him to sort of carry in that game. But at the same time, the Karthus pick really threw us off.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of us remember Gulen's Heimerdinger during the finals.
Yeah.
I'm not salty at all. All right, in game 2 for the turnaround, what you got on that, Zabel?
Well, the Garen still went through, which I was surprised about because he dominated lane in game 1, and then he actually ended up getting first blood at like 3 minutes onto the Malphite, which we were both surprised about because that was like the last lane I thought would get first blood was the tank versus tank. But Unstream again on the Rammus, he had a lot of early pressure again, and he got his 80 carry kill bot lane early. But then I don't know what the time was on it, but Jake had a really, really good, Taco had a really good counter gank bot lane, and they actually ended up getting 3 kills from his counter gank on Unstream. So that kind of put you guys ahead by a little bit. Let's see.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was actually Taco went into pick bans with our coach Isaacle, and he was talking about how very much he wanted to just focus a lot more on the bot lane side during that game. So we were sort of pretty well prepared for the counter gank in that situation. That's also why we went the Lucian Leona, because we really wanted to go like heavily all in, despite my Leona not really showing up in the first game, but not necessarily playing poorly either.
Yeah, but that's the thing I think was like super good for you guys is that you had a Leona, Sejuani, Malphite, and then you just had Lucian, who actually did super well. He got like really, really fed, from what I remember. And then their team didn't really have a front. They had Rammus, Braum, Garen really for their front line, but 2 of those champions can only CC 1 target, and Braum has like a lot of CC, but if he isn't super tanky, then like you're not really scared of like the Braum tank, like being able to dive onto your backline or even really peel for their backline because you can just kill Braum too. So I feel like you guys had the better front line in that game with the 3 tanks that have super high ability to actually peel, and that enabled your AD carry to just go off, and he did super well.
It was also kind of nice that 2 of our engages ignore Brahm's shield completely.
Yeah. Yeah, that was huge.
The thing I noticed watching those games as viewers, you guys, especially since it was your first time actually playing as a team, you guys had excellent team fights.
Yeah.
Great target selection, peeling for your carries, choosing when to go in, when to stay out. It was actually very well played. I enjoyed watching it.
We do the classic cliche LCS, like Braum, Lucian, or whatever, yeah. Or basically we're just going after that particular target. So like when I was going after the Malzahar, I believe in the second game, because I caught him out a few times, as well as the Kaisa. I just remember like we were just all like yelling the name.
I mean, that's the way to do it, and you guys did it perfectly. So
Yeah.
credit to you guys.
Yeah, very good looking team fights.
Yeah, in game 2 also, Cop, your Leona ultimates were just spot on. There were a bunch of times where you'd catch out the Malzahar and their AD carry at the same time when they're in the back line, not even close to you. It was absolutely stunning to watch.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, I definitely have realized that I've gained a little bit of a reputation with Leona. I understand it, but at the same time, I wouldn't say I don't enjoy playing her, but it's just sort of like I definitely know that there are other champions that I can play even better with that I'm just sort of hiding for later.
All right, cool.
I'm kind of excited to bring them out at some point this season.
Don't give too much away, though.
Yeah, and there you hear it. Ban out Leona from Air Drake. We want to see what Cop's got to bring to the table.
We want to see how deep your pool is.
All right.
Yeah, I think Jasop saw that.
Yikes.
Big yikes.
All right. And the last matchup we had was Ocean versus Sentinels, which also went 1-1. Would you mind walking us through the game 1, Zabel?
Yeah, that was another 1-1. I mean, it was super close. They had a lot of early fights bot lane. It looked like super kill heavy game. In the early game, actually, one of the fights bot lane I think gave Ocean a 3-kill lead. I don't have who got those kills, but I know Sivir was just getting huge in those games. In that first game, what I have for the mid game fight was Sentinels actually aced for 0 at a dragon fight at 24:30. And then after that, they kind of just kept winning skirmishes, got the mid inhibitor, rotated to Baron, and then they reset. I mean, like most of these games this past weekend was one team wins a team fight, gets Baron, ends the game. Like, I felt like that was the story of almost all of these games, is that when a team gets Baron, either A, they were already too far ahead at that point, so they would have going to get Baron anyway, and then enable them to win harder, or B, other teams didn't really have a response to the Baron buff to be able to turtle and defend. They kind of just kept getting caught out and losing and trying to fight instead of just turtling. So I think that's something we can take away from the weekend overall, is that if a team gets Baron, you have to turtle instead of trying to win fights when they have Baron buff or when you're already behind. Because that was definitely the story in game 1 for Sentinels. Getting that Sivir huge. And this was another game where both AD carries just went off in game 1 and game 2. I know the Sivir carried game 1 super hard, so.
Yeah, and honestly, there might not be much more to say about it. Sivir ended up being what?
It was like 10-1. Yeah, maybe 15, 10-1. I don't know. I'd have to look.
I'll bring it up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sivir ended up being 14-1-12. Mouse Amazing coming in with his perfect KDA from last season. Out of 2 games, but we'll gloss over that.
Yeah, I thought game 2 was interesting. They picked Ivern. That's something I wasn't expecting to see at all. That was a very interesting pick. What do you think he was thinking when he picked Ivern?
So, probably the same thing, like, hey, my AD carry just got really, really, really fed last game. let's pick another jungler that'll actually help that. So when he gets fed on this Kog'Maw, I mean, they sent, 4 bans against him, so...
Yeah. Yeah,
I
he
don't
did
know.
pick the Kog'Maw, but I mean, I would have liked to see like maybe a Galio mid lane instead of the Vladimir. If you're playing a Kog'Maw comp, you kind of want the extra peel from mid too.
Or Lulu.
Yeah, or Lulu. I mean, they had the Bard, which is like okay at peeling, but it's a little more awkward to peel with Bard than with Lulu.
Yeah, Bard's definitely more of a pressure champ early on, where Kog'Maw just wants his shields and heals.
Yeah, I feel like I liked the idea, but you can't sell out that hard with an Ivern jungle that has 0 pressure, a mid lane Vladimir that is useless until he scales, a Kog'Maw that's useless until he's 18 with 6 items.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you're gonna have like a Kog'Maw and rely super hard on that, you just have to not have a scaling mid laner that will just not be good from behind. Like you have to have just some CC, like Galio.
Yeah.
Or even
Yeah.
like literally anything that has CC, like maybe Orianna would have been good.
Yeah, you just need to have something. You need to you can't. I mean, I'm not a jungler, but you can't essentially give up an entire third of your map because your bot and mid lane just don't exist until later in the game. You need to have somewhere where you can actually get to a point where those people can carry, because you know they're going to win late. But as with in my game, if you don't get late, it doesn't matter if you win late. Especially if the other team has a Jinx that got late, that got laid off of gold early and just smashed for free.
Sentinels actually won the early lane. I think Kog'Maw got a kill at like 4 minutes, and he was ahead. But then Jmu had a really, really sick double kill at like 11 minutes, and then he got 2 more kills at 13 minutes. And at that point, he was like, what, 4-1 or 4-2 or something like that?
Yeah, 4-1, I think.
He literally just snowballed.
Yep.
Yeah, and we
Not
did
too much
see... We saw Briggsworth putting a lot of pressure down after Kog'Maw got that first kill. So it's always helpful to have an extra person in your lane.
For sure.
Yeah, the Sejuani was really good that game. I mean, that's so much peel for the Jinx again with the Sejuani, Scion, Zyra. That's something that I think was really good for their comp and really bad for Sentinels comp, because they had all the peel for Jinx, but then Sentinels had literally no dive except for the Malphite, who if he dives in by himself, he's just going to die to Cassiopeia anyway.
Right.
Maybe some compositional tweaks they could have made.
But I mean, Ocean did end up playing that game really well, and I was actually super surprised they ended up taking the game, because they've been pushing this whole -19 narrative. And
Minus 19 productions.
honestly, I
Still
did
love
not
it.
think they were going to take a game this year if they kept the team, but they've been putting in a lot of work. And one thing I will say about Ocean is their team fights look super coordinated. Like, they are definitely playing a lot together.
Yeah, and they've all known each other for quite some time as well, so that helps with the synergy and just knowing how your friends play and how you can play alongside them. Their drafts look super clean for both games. I know the first game didn't work out for them, but I don't think the Lucian Sejuani brand Shen Galio was like a bad comp. It just ended up that Sivir got super huge. But I mean, their drafts, I didn't really see any weaknesses with their drafts. It's just like you said, the -19. It's the skill differences in some of the lanes are hard to overcome, but their team fighting is super clean.
I mean, the skill difference only gets so well. I mean, so far, you can be so much theoretically better, mechanically better, but if you don't actually execute, it doesn't matter how much better you press your buttons. If the other team executes the fights in the macro better.
Exactly,
your
and that's where
lane
that
opponent-
communication comes in.
If your lane opponent picks Scion, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you
No,
don't
there is
ban
no
out Scion, it doesn't matter if your bot lane is 0-15. Like, there's nothing you can do. Scion will never die.
It's actually kind of funny. Last season when I joined Air Drake, we had like a huge emphasis, like when I came in, of improving the communications, and it was just like in 1 week of practicing with them, I couldn't believe how much of an improvement there was. And it just kind of shows with like Ocean Drake during that win, like how well they can actually play together when they're using their communications effectively. It was I even saw like some of the Blue Sentinel players who played really well in the first game just sort of had like collapses in the second game. They were pretty shocking to me. Just like saying like, oh, that's the same player from the first game. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, having played with a number of those players, I think that maybe sometimes playing with people you're really close with is not a great idea, and sometimes it's a great idea. And it depends who you are, but it did not seem to work in that game too, for sure.
Yeah. So, Twitch chat, if you have anything to say about the series, we'll definitely just read them and bring them up on stream if you want. But if not, we're just going to move into some nice little stat tidbits from the first week of games. Unfortunately, Infernal doesn't have anything to say other than they have a 0 KDA throughout all their entire
Undefeated.
lanes. Yeah, undefeated. Zabel, do you have any stats for us?
Let me see. Cop sent me something. Let me see if I can open it.
Actually, yeah, Cop, do you have any fun stats you want to share?
I thought it was interesting how, in terms of the support pool, there was more tanks played than any other than mages or healers by a large margin, which was kind of interesting, and ended up having a higher win percentage too. So I would imagine we could probably expect more tanks next week. It's definitely sort of weird, bizarre for me because I see in the solo queue, for example, a lot of people end up playing like mages. So it's sort of like a very opposite thing. But I guess that's also just because a large part of it has to do with just communication, just significantly better in the rec league than a normal solo queue game. The other thing that was kind of interesting too was how in the Ocean Blue Sentinels game, I was looking at Hey Dude 5's stats, and he has very little kill participation, and normally that usually just means they're just farming a lot. But he's actually the least, besides the support, obviously, he has the least CS per minute. So I probably would like to focus more in terms of being able to sort of see what he was doing, because I was kind of confused when I looked at the stat line. I mean, he even has like team damage percentage is also the least.
Well,
Yeah, 11%, right?
He did have a high vision score though, at least. So he
He picked-
definitely was.
he picked Vladimir
Doesn't do
both
it.
games, so I mean that's just those are bad lanes no matter what, which is probably part of it. But yeah, that's definitely something to work on, is making sure you just have gold. You can't do much without gold. So
Who had the highest average kills? was
Average
that?
kills ended up being a tie
Adolma?
between Adolma and Endo on his 16 kill game on Echo.
Yeah, they both had a 9.5 average. I mean, you were pretty close behind on that 8.5. I think you were the
Fourth,
third highest, right? Fourth. Mouse
Yeah.
Amazing had 9.
that Siffer game carried him.
Yeah,
14 kills on that. Will that's pretty good.
that'll do it.
I think we should all get to the point that we are desperately trying to avoid, but we should avoid no longer. Highest KDA. Sorry. Lowest KDA. That
Lowest
was
KDA?
Dynamic killer at 0.42.
Yeah, yikes. Also, the highest average deaths, I think it was 9.5. I mean, that just again boils down to like the role swapping, the roster swapping. But I mean, on support, I feel that you shouldn't end up dying as much. But if your lane's just getting stomped, I mean, it kind of feels like you have to make a play and then die because you're behind. So,
Yeah. And
Someone-
I mean,
It's definitely better that it's the support who's getting it rather than the AD carry, at least, especially as playing a tank player.
yeah. Yeah, and I
Okay.
think in some of those games, he was like one of the only tanks on his team, right? Is that, and if you're
Yeah.
like one of the only tanks, you're going to die every fight.
Yeah. You're supposed to be the first one to die.
plus the level 1 set his Braum behind. Well, so we were like level 2 while he was level 1. And so we could just keep poking him down with Corky the entire laning phase. So,
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He was Brand in the first game.
yeah, in the first game,
That's yikes.
yeah. If you fall behind on Brand, you're not really going to be doing much. So
No.
it's a little definitely unfortunate.
to get to the real point, though, highest KDA of 44 for one.
Who was that? Oh, it was
One
Darth Ted.
Darth Ted,
Oh, who would that be?
averaging 0.5 assists, 1 death in 2 games. That is quite a performance.
Quite the performance.
Yeah, thanks.
I think one thing we need to point out, though, about how maybe some of these stats are superficial. He only had 29% of his team's damage as an AD carry. Not the best, even with his massive kill score. That's definitely something you should try improving on. Darth
Just the
Ted.
last
I will
hit
do my
god.
best.
Yeah.
It's just the last Corky Rocket taking the kill.
He also had highest CSD at 31. Or CSF, yeah, CSD at 15 of plus 31. You know, could be a little bit higher, but
What was the lowest CSD? Was it negative 31? Because that's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
It is
I think it was
actually-
negative 31.
I think that's how the math works in this one. If you've only played one series against one opponent, right?
Oh, yeah, I
Followed
forgot that
by-
was against you guys.
unfortunately followed by Timberland, but that's not really his fault for playing 2 non-Targon supports into 2 Targon supports.
Yeah, I think we're gonna leave out supports when we talk about CSD, just because if you play tanks like
No.
Poppy or Braum every game, you're
I
gonna
think
beat
it's
other
Dude, that's
mages.
leaving me out.
I think things to actually talk about is the lower end of the team percentage damage. Obviously, the support's going to be down there, but people that are unexpectedly down there is Dainty Taco at less than 10% as a jungler, and then Hey Dude 5 at only 11% as a mid laner. That is a little bit unfortunate. I mean, in these games, they're a bit fiesta. You know, people are fighting top, people are fighting bot. Your jungler's not there, but that's still, you'd like to do a little bit more than under 10% damage and only 11% damage as a primary.
To Taco's credit, he was playing tanks in both games, correct?
Yes, but
Yes.
you can still do damage as a tank.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, Taco is known for doing more of a supporty style of play, just
Safety.
sitting in front of his carries and letting them put out the poke and damage.
Very true. Yep. I just feel like you can do both. You know.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
should always. You should. I'm not singling out him specifically, or I mean, I am obviously, but I'm not trying to single out him specifically. I just feel like you should always try to figure out what you can do to improve.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And if you're at the bottom of the damage meters, then doing more damage is something you can improve upon.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised to see Heydu 5 as a mid laner down there.
Yep, that's a
Um,
bit unfortunate.
Honestly, he was, 2.5 average kills, 4 average deaths, and 8.5 average assists. So that's not the worst KDA scoreline. And you would
Yeah.
expect him to actually be doing damage with the champions he picked. So, yeah, it's very, very low.
But you know,
It happens.
it's hard. It's hard when you pick Vladimir into anything. It's hard when you pick Vladimir, but
Yeah.
you still got to be doing a little bit more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I would like to say at the other end of team percentage damage, Mouse Amazing with 35%, very impressive.
Dick.
But on another comment on a top laner who was very hard carried in both the games he played in, Pickle Popper with 33.7% of his team's damage really had a great series against us, especially since one of his games is on Zillion, which basically doesn't do damage. But that Cassiopeia was a major problem, and I think it was not the year of the pickle last year, but it might be the year of the pickle this year.
we're not bringing back a year of the pickle.
We might have to. We might have to.
All right. And,
We had the Rec League New Year's already, didn't we?
Yeah, so we have the standings up actually, and this is going to be an interactive thing with you guys if you want to join in. But Zabel and I are keeping track of our guesses for who's going to win each series, and it's either you're right or you're wrong. So I guessed 2-0 Scuttlecrab over Gromp, and that's the only thing I got right out of this week, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I called the Air versus Mountain 1-1 and the 2-0 Merc Wolves Brambleback.
Yeah,
So puts me at a 3-point lead.
I should have
See if I
known
can maintain it.
that Mountain was going to 1-1. That's just bad analysis from me.
That's the Mountain Classic.
Yeah, definitely. and then we'll just
That's the classic rivalry.
yeah, we're gonna move on to next week's games, and
Can we open with the trash talk?
yeah, I think we do.
What was
And-
the first thing that was said? Oh, I think Justin posted something first in the captain's chat.
I actually have this news clipping that my friend got from me from. It looks like it was next Monday. I don't know if you guys can read it, but the headline is Ocean upsets Infernal, and I can't even read it. Sorry.
Ocean upsets Infernal. Infernal tried to save face by saying he would be a super minion, but Mr. Overy was quick to point out that an inhibitor would need to be taken first, which Infernal is not likely to do.
Oh,
Fucking yikes. Oh, shit. That's good.
I'm not sure who. That was directed at the AD carry, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Rovian,
Jimu
Rovian.
was commenting that Rovian was
Another
Minion.
minion in the lane to farm.
just another one of those little casters.
oh,
On the topic of minions in the bot lane that will be farmed, I feel like on the last game of the day that if we just ban out Leona, really what does Cop have to play? Because he's only played 2 games of Leona this season, and I really feel like, I mean, his jungler does the least damage on his team, but I really feel like if you just ban out Leona, what does he have? And we will find out.
I guess we're gonna find out.
Cop getting called out. He's going to have
Oh,
to bring it
man.
this weekend.
it's going to show you my ocean of supports.
Actually, on that topic, Gulen actually told me that you better not try to ban him out because he doesn't have an Ocean, champion Ocean. He's got a champion Tornado that he's willing to bring at you. So I think he's hinting at a Yasuo right there.
Well, okay, so first of all, that's just ridiculousness, because we all know that the only person on that team that's allowed to play Yasuo is their new top laner. But I'll just pick Syndra. He'll just pick Fizz into me, and I know we'll win for free. I mean,
Well, that was rough. Also, Isikli wanted to let you know that he didn't feel like it was fair insulting you since you guys got absolutely destroyed by a Brambleback.
that's reasonable.
So he's just gonna let this one slip and get you next week.
I appreciate that, honestly, because, like, you know, it sucks when you hit someone when they're down, you know? And we're definitely down. Like, way down. Apparently we're in 9th. I'm relatively certain that's not fair, because the letter G comes before the letter M. So really, we should be in 8th, tied for 8th, but apparently we're in 9th. But, you know, it's easy to hit people when they're down, so I appreciate him not doing it, but I will be doing it next week after they are down to us in a 2-0, because I have no shame.
All right.
There's only one place to go, and that's up, right?
Well, I mean,
I would hope, at least.
up into the sky of your Nexus, where the air drakes live.
Timberland coming in the chat with, if he plays Janna, I'll play Blitz. GG.
True.
I think you gotta hit some Q skill shots before you can come at it with that. I mean, when your flash is off cooldown.
I mean,
Not
yeah,
much
you
is
just
happening.
flash straight into them and hit the point blank blitz hook, right?
You flash it.
Just make sure. Just make sure when you flash, you have more than 25% of your health.
All right. Well, so what do you guys think for Infernal versus Ocean? Who do you think's gonna win? Zabel, we'll start with you.
I will refrain from giving my opinion because I'm playing in the match. So you guys can go ahead.
All right, Shadow.
I think it will be a competitive game if
Like competitive for who's getting more kills, me or Shu?
no. See, I think it'll be a really competitive game because I have this theory that at some point you and Shu will actually just kill each other. And maybe it'll happen in game 1. If it happens in your first series, then I think it'll be a very competitive series. And if it doesn't, then we will see.
I've been known to feed his mid lane opponents double buffs and scrims, so we're gonna have to see if that translates over to the actual matches. Let's hope not.
I mean, that's just buff transfer because he'll just kill them and take the double buffs.
Yeah, it's actually just big brain.
Yeah, he can't kill you, but he can kill them.
All right, Cop, who do you have your money on?
I have it on Infernal. I actually think Infernal and probably Red Brambleback are like the two teams that if you can actually get like a win or two against them, I would probably regard you as in contention for the playoffs pretty heavily.
All right. And I will say this. I think if Ocean can Ocean can hold on early against the pressure that Infernal's going to bring, then they'll probably be able to win through map rotations and team fights. But it's a very tall order to, go even in lane against you, and while you're in the jungle
Mr. Neat.
Mr. Neat in the top
been
lane.
stepping up. We got to give him a shout out. He has been playing pretty well. I know Shadow of Old has some things to say about that matchup. We've had a few scrimmages, and
I have absolutely nothing to say about Mr. Neat's play. He plays excellently. My only comment is that I have never once played against Mr. Neat. I have only ever played against Mr. Neat with the combination of Sable instead of So I don't actually have any thoughts on that, no.
All right. Next matchup, we got Scuttle versus Mountain. I'm going to refrain from this one as well, I think. Zabel, what do you got?
For Scuttle versus Mountain, well, I mean, if we go with Mountain's track record, it's going to be a 1-1. But I would be impressed if they could. I mean, Unstream, I think, is one of the dark horse junglers in the league. Like, in my opinion, he's one of the top junglers in the league. He creates so much early pressure on specific picks. But I'd like to see them just, not trying to BM and give, like, advice here, but I'd like to see them just ban his Nocturne, which I think everybody already does anyway. And then kind of force him onto something else. I mean, he showed the Rammus, but it was good game one, but inconsistent for game two. So I think they can sneak out a 1-1. Mountain always tends to have a game where they just play super, super well, and then one game where they kind of fall off a little bit. So we're going to have to see if they can buck that trend, but I'm calling a 1-1.
All right. Shadow?
I'm with Zabel on this one. I think Unstream is a very underrated player. He's got some really spicy picks that he absolutely pops off on. I remember some Yi gameplay that is quite annoying if you're not on his team. But all around, I don't really see their lanes being quite as strong as Scuttle's lanes, particularly in the top lane. I'm not going to comment on the bot lane because I know you want me to, but I'm not going to.
Don't worry about it.
And I feel like it's hard to make a lot of jungle plays when your lane's losing, as we've seen. So I think 1-1's the safe bet because they have too much plot armor to believe in a 2-0. But I would lean towards Scuttle on this one for sure.
Cop?
I think it's going to be a 1-1. Something I want to really touch on is the fact that while there is obviously Adolma and, of course, you, Ted, being like two of the best players of your team, I think that in terms of your jungle and your mid lane, I was really surprised by how well they were playing in that series that you guys just had. And I think they're going to actually be a pretty big factor in the series of being able to actually be able to contain Mountain Drake pretty effectively. Though there is a possibility that it could go 2-0 in favor of Scuttle. I'm going to probably stick with the 1-1 at least.
I will say this. As of right now, our lineup is actually having Endo play in the jungle and Adoma play mid lane, whereas Skyrockets is going to be top lane because our current jungler isn't going to be able to come with us on Sunday.
Ooh.
So we have a little bit of a switch up.
Did not know that.
The most overrated player goes back into his normal slot of jungle.
No comment on the hype video.
I'm sorry, Endo, you're the best.
Actually, I believe there's going to be a hype video incoming for Sunday, so
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
A note on the hype videos. I posted that trash like Mike Tyson hype video, and not like a minute later, Jamie from Ocean responds with like a dope ass Avengers hype video. And in my mind, I was like, dude, I just like learned how to video edit and made this dumbass hype video with Mike Tyson. And then a minute later, he posted it. I was like, dude, this guy made this video in like 2 minutes. What the fuck? I was like, dude, I just got fucking wrecked. But then it turns out he was just waiting to post it. So
He
fucking
just
mind
had one
game.
up here.
Mind games there,
Minus 19 Productions, low key popping off on the social media.
popping off.
Yeah, definitely
Oh,
winning the trash talk game. Or the hype game, I should say. And then the last game of the series, you guys, or the weekend, you guys actually play each other.
Yes, we do.
What do you think of that?
Oh yeah.
I think that I should not comment because it's my own game, as we've been doing. But I think we can't possibly do worse than we did last week.
Yeah, because you have Gallywix in the jungle now, right? And Toxic swapping to top lane, you mid lane.
Yep.
It's gonna be interesting.
It'll be interesting, and I think, and that's part of it. And part of it is that unfortunately Toxic lives a very busy lifestyle, so we can't really play as much with him. So we hadn't really had as much communication, which is a small part of it. But also, just we're putting our highest rated player in a role that is better to carry because top lane is terrible, and a little more communication with their jungler, and hopefully it'll be a better team going forward.
Yeah, we had those kind of problems last year with Toxic. We'd be like, 2 minutes till game time. He's on the toilet eating pizza, loading up his laptop. I don't know what the fuck he was doing, but somehow still didn't feed. It was great.
So, Cop, I just want to ask you, you have Isikli coming back to the top lane. You were talking about communication problems in your game one. Do you think having him back on the team is going to help fix that?
I mean, honestly, in game 2, we fixed it really well. It was almost shocking just how quickly it happened. I think that with Icically back, it's just going to be even better than expected. But even then, like, I still think with or without him, I probably would favor us in the series. I think that Crack Variety is going to show that stronger side of him this weekend. And honestly, the last few times he and I have been practicing together, he just impresses me further and further of how much he improves and just like performs in general. So I'm really excited.
All right.
I will say, I think your strongest suit is definitely your team fighting, and it's a little bit hard to team fight when your top laner is a Ignite Cleanse Tryndamere that has never once communicated with his team. So I'm not sure how that'll really turn out for you guys, but I'm looking forward to what you pick, my dude, Mr. Icically. I see you over there.
Zabel, who do you have your money on?
Who? If I based it strictly on the performance of last weekend, I would say Air Drake, but there is a roster swap coming through, so I think Merc's going to be able to pull out a game. I think it's going to be another 1-1. That's my prediction. I think it 1-1. I think that we're going to see maybe some interesting picks come out from you, Andy, for the mid lane. And then they might like adjust game 2 and win game 2, but I think you guys, I'll even go further and say I think you guys will take game 1 and they'll take game 2.
I like it.
Ooh.
So a
I'm
repeat of
expecting that
last week for
Soraka
Air.
mid.
No,
don't
that's-
bring out Soraka.
The Soraka mid, that is only against Shoemaker when he picks his one trick out GP. That's the only it's a one
Trick. Did you
Yeah, one
see his
trick.
Kled?
Isn't that why Shoemaker got benched this year because he was a one trick? I thought that's what I heard. That he got
he
benched.
played Kled for 13 minutes. One trick.
I heard he let the fame and fortune go to his head and then got kicked off from being, a showboater.
Well,
That's what I heard.
he's a well-known.
I can neither
okay.
confirm nor deny that.
He's a
bench,
well-known toxic player. I feel like he must have rubbed some people the wrong way, specifically his mid laner, who he's really just always been in a fight with because he wants to play mid lane. And then also his AD carry, who is now his top laner, because they're just stealing roles from each other. And I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but he's toxic.
His coach too, right? Like he pissed off the coach and now he got benched. That's honestly probably what happened.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
honestly, the breaking point was his emote game and how he just constantly emotes.
All right. Sorry, we actually skipped over the Bramble versus Gromp. But we
That's
talked
fine.
a lot about yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about Gromp's issues in the game versus Scuttle, and I haven't seen them playing as a team yet, and I really hope they can pull it together. But Bramble looked super good.
They do. And like the bad thing for Gromp is that they now have to get I believe they have to pick up another new player. I was talking to their team captain, and I think they had to end up dropping somebody, and they pick up a new AD carry now. So they're going to have even more roster complications coming through for this weekend. So they're going to have to learn how to play with a new player again. Knife is, yes, that's correct. So, I mean, honestly, that was kind of the tail of their last series. So maybe they'll do something magical and figure it out and be able to go 1-1, but I definitely don't see them going 2-0. My guess is a Bramble 2-0, to be honest. Just Bramble's more practiced and cohesive.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. All right. So there are a couple things I wanted to talk about when going into the rec meta. The first thing's the top lane. We saw a lot about there were a lot of skill differences between the top laners, but a lot of teams mitigated that by putting their weaker top lane on like a tank in order just to farm it out and then play for team fights in late game. Do you think that's the most viable strategy?
I think that is definitely the most viable strategy. I think there are certain teams and players that can play things other than tanks, but I feel like in the Rec League, it is always better to pick a front line because so many of these games are just decided by team fights. There's very few games that are actually decided by a top lane carry player actually split pushing. And if you're not accomplishing anything split pushing, then it's better to be on a tank, likely. I mean, there's other reasons, getting ahead early, et cetera, et cetera. But I think having that tank in the top lane is always going to be a benefit to you in your team later in the game. And there are certain matchups, but that it's hard to bully the tanks that are relevant, and no one picked a tank that isn't relevant. So I would definitely say top laners on a tank is a great way to get to a point where you can be relevant, no matter who you're against.
With a lot of the teams we've talked about having communication barriers, playing a team with a split pusher just makes it that much harder because you have to communicate so much with your split pusher of when they should apply pressure and when you're going to go for like a small fight if they are split pushing to trade a tower. So the tank is always like a safer pick, I feel, in the Rec League. Like what you said with the matchups even being that way, the team fighting is more of a focus than split pushing.
Yeah, and I also feel like you need a go button somewhere. A lot of teams lose because they don't have a go button, and all the tanks currently viable have one. Malphite's got R, Zion can R, Urgot can build Righteous Glory,
Yep.
sprint at someone, stuff like that. I think is a very big thing that people forget that they need to have. You need to have some form of engage no matter what your team comp is, because you need to be able to make something happen when you have the ability to make something happen.
All right, so on that subject, you said Urgot. Why wasn't he picked at all? I mean, he was banned twice against us, but why did no other team pick him up? Because in a lot of the pro leagues and even, just solo queue, Urgot's one of the most dominant top laners there is right now.
Yeah,
I think people don't have the time on him. I think that like a lot of the players play like, especially a lot of the top laners this season, I feel have pretty small champ pools. Obviously there are a few exceptions, but I feel that a lot of the top laners right now maybe aren't like mechanically comfortable in Urgot, and so picking him just feels bad for them, even though he's like stupid OP. I think that's kind of a barrier for some teams picking it. They don't want their top laner playing a champion they haven't really put time into.
And he's a little bit different of a type of champion, right? He's not going to be that. He doesn't fit into team comps tremendously well, unless you play him properly, and you can't just play him for 10 seconds to know how to play him properly.
Yeah.
He's not played like most other champions.
Yeah, and that goes back to the communication thing. If like Urgot's engage is like so unique, it's not like a go button. It's like a 1, 2, 3 go button because you have to charge up your Righteous Glory and then hit your flip for the, or just like a slow for the engage. But it's like not a very easy to play around engage if it doesn't go properly.
Yep. And if you go at the wrong time, you just get melted because you have a Black Lever and a Righteous Glory. You don't actually do anything.
Right.
The other thing too I've noticed is a lot of the tank players are also like melee tanks, so they probably don't have the familiarity with being able to do the correct positioning for Urgot, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
Just
he's
being
definitely.
able to use, like the
It's definitely-
kneecap shots and all that.
It's definitely just a different style of play that most people aren't. It's a fairly unique style of champion play style that it takes a while to get used to. I don't pick that champion because I hate him and I'm terrible on him. So, I mean, I'm bad, but it is capable to be bad on him. He is not as brain dead as the LCS would like you to think he is.
Fair enough. And that's honestly probably the only time we're going to bring up Urgot, just because patch 9.4 just dropped and he got nerfed into the ground.
Hard nerfed.
So
Yeah,
we'll
it's-
never see him again, ever.
His lane phase is pretty bad now.
Yeah, we saw a Karthus nerf too in that patch, I believe, right?
Right. So, yeah, that actually brings us... I guess that's a good enough segue to go into the jungle, where Karthus is one of the better picks. Zabel, do you want to talk how much the Karthus Q nerf is going to hurt him?
Was it a 5 damage nerf? 10 damage nerf?
So the base
awesome.
damage is 5, and then the Q on an isolated target is also 5. So that's, I believe, 10 in total for the
Okay.
isolated target.
Yeah, I think he's still going to be good. I mean, I thought they were nerfing his Defile. That's something you can just turn off and on just to proc the damage once in the jungle camp, just to kill, like, for say, Raptors quickly or something. I think he'll still be a strong pick. I'd like to see some players play him. Obviously, I wouldn't like to see him picked against my team because I think he's fucking broken, and I hate playing against that champion, but I would like to see some Karthus games not in the mid lane. So I'm interested to see if teams are going to still value that pick or if they're going to go towards just back to Sejuani, Rammus, whatever the hell people are picking. Sejuani, I think we saw in almost every game.
Yeah, Sejuani was one of our most pick ban champions. I think 4 picks in 2 bans. And so, actually, that's another... So Shadow of Old said tanks in the top lane were super, super good, just because, for all the reasons we stated previously. What do you think of going a tank jungler versus more of an assassin like Kayn or Graves or Vi?
Well, I personally love Kayn. I think everybody knows that. I think assassins are good in the jungle if your team doesn't just lose everywhere. Like, if you're playing, like, for example, like Kha'Zix's jungle, and all your lanes lose, you're not going to be able to kill anybody because the other team is so ahead that you probably won't be able to assassinate anybody. And if you do jump in, then you just die and your team can't clean up any of the kills because they're behind. So I feel like to pick an assassin jungler, you have to super trust your teammates. Yes, Red Kayn is a tank, Elliot, yeah. Because he heals a lot. But I think to pick an assassin jungler, you have to super trust your teammates to not lose lane and go even.
Right. And where do you think bruisers fit into that, like the Jackson Olaf?
I feel like they almost play the same as the assassins. I mean, as far as like team fights are concerned, because a Jackson Olaf and like even a Red Kayn are just basically diving the back line anyway. They do have the more pressure and like a split push if you're playing Jax, but I think they kind of do the same thing as an assassin as far as team fights are concerned. As a jungler, you just try to get on the AD carry or the mage and disrupt them. I mean, as an assassin, you have more kill pressure, but I think they kind of play the same. Obviously, for a bruiser, you can invade a lot more aggro and do a lot of counter jungling, but I think the play styles look pretty similar.
All right, fair enough. I guess, Shadow, what would you rather see on your team comp? If you're playing a bruiser like Darius, would you rather see somebody like tanking up for you, or just somebody to actually be able to dive with you 2v2 like a Noolof or something?
I would always rather have a Sejuani or a Gragas, the old Gragas build. I think tank junglers, you can't ever go wrong with a tank jungler. Like, if you have Kha'Zix, it forces your decisions around Baron to be much different, because your jungler can't just sit there and tank it and then back off. Same with things like dragon fights. You can't face check for vision nearly as easily. Even if you're snowballing and you win, then you just win with a assassin / bruiser. But I think I would always prefer to have the tank jungler. I think it makes macro infinitely easier.
All right. And I guess we can just kind of move on to mid lane too, with you being our resident expert for this week. So with the Karthus Q nerf, do you think we're going to see him a lot in lane? I know Defox absolutely destroyed when he got him.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of, if you can last pick him into a favorable lane matchup, he's probably fine. But I feel like he gets just brutalized by a lot of champions, and you have to play around him well.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect to see too much, but I know Shu has played Karthus in the past, so I would not expect a few select cases. I would not expect too much of him.
And one of those champions that actually destroys Karthus is Zed, who we actually just got a really, really big buff. Do you think we're going to see anybody pull him out this week?
Well,
I'm gonna play Zed jungle.
I am playing mid lane, so I don't want to give away too much of my pick ban strategy. But
why not?
Pretty good to Karthus.
All right. Hey, Cop, any secret picks in the mid lane you want to divulge?
I think there's a lot more flexible champions in the meta when it comes to playing mid and other positions that you could theoretically see come this week, that I actually have noticed a bit in the LCS lately, particularly in the LCK. So I could see that being impacted, but I don't know if there's many champions in particular who've been affected in mid lane by the Conqueror change that a lot of people have been complaining about, at least since I've been reading the forums today.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't played at all today, so I don't really know what to think about the Conqueror changes. I think it's going to be very, very good on a select few champions, like Renekton or Cassiopeia, the ones that can proc it really, really quickly within their normal playstyle.
Mm-hmm.
But for the rest, it's kind of just, all right, well, can't bring that rune anymore.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good on a champion I will not be allowed to play, which is, as Knife just said, Sylas. I think it will be a really busted-ass Keystone on Sylas. Did not get to play it last week. Thank you, Brian. Probably will not get to play it again this week, but we'll see.
Thank you, Elliot.
I could see Kled being a very contested pick for certain teams, just because his ability of having that passive that just constantly procs it. It was a standard keystone for Kled in the past too.
Yeah, Jimmy, nobody's gonna give you Udyr.
Yeah.
Stop hyping him up. It's just, not gonna happen.
Nope. That's permabanned.
That is a one trick that is banned away for good reason.
See, that going back to the topic of one tricks, I feel like that is another one. Is Chimmy that much better at Udyr than he is at, say, Vi? That
Yes.
you can't ban the Udyr. I agree. I think it is. I don't think Paco is that much better at Poppy as a support player than he is at Pyke or Leona.
This Leona's pretty nasty, honestly.
It's he does not. I mean, he should do likely, besides play of the people against him, he should do nothing on Poppy as a support that he can't do, on Leona. As a top laner, I think that's a bit different, a very different question. But as a support player, I don't think Paco needs to have his Poppy banned in every single matchup, no matter what. That being said, Udyr should never be given to Chimmy because Chimmy is very good at Udyr and does not play any other champions. So he has no practice on anything besides Udyr.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about the Poppy pick in particular is that not many people, at least in the bot lane, know what to do against Poppy since she's been out of the meta since, end of Season 7, I think? Maybe beginning of Season 8. But she just is a very unique tank, you know? And AD carries don't know what to do against her.
I suppose that is fair, but you also said it. She is a unique tank. Paco does not play support when he picks Poppy.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
plays another
Assassin.
frontline dive champion, which is a means of supporting, I suppose. But if you don't let him get ahead and get free gold, then he is an underfed top laner, and that's not a really great support champion. So I think there are certain one tricks where you look at the fallback to their second champion and you say, yes, you need to ban the one trick. But I think you need to look at what the champion is and what their backup is when you think about whether or not you ban their one trick.
All right.
I don't think it's as simple as, yes, ban all one tricks, or no, don't ban all one tricks.
Yeah. At least for us, we had no idea what I Love Isla was going to play other than Jinx. So we were just like, I guess free ban on that one.
Yep.
Timberland coming in with the who are the best one tricks in the rec league.
I would say
I think
Chimmy is
yeah.
definitely the best
Jimmy
one
is
trick.
up there.
But
Jimmy's
he doesn't
definitely
get his
the
champ.
one trick. No.
Last season, I would say, Skyrockets on the Garen or Mundo. I mean, it's technically a 2-trick, but nobody could really handle that until the finals, so he absolutely just walked through every single lane.
Yeah. Athcore looking pretty good on the Garen, too. I think he won both his lanes, but only ended up winning one game, but definitely dominant in Garen.
I'd like to also have a throwback to Rec League history. I can't remember his summoner name. Oh, God.
Hey, Calvi?
No. His brother, Julian.
Oh, the Shen. Yeah.
Julian on the Shen
It's.
should always be banned.
I'm with Dingus.
That man is a monster on Shen and less of a monster on other champions.
It's absolutely crazy. You play like a gold 4 level on Shen, and then like a
Less on
tortoise.
other things.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot less.
Iron.
No offense to him.
I miss you,
wood.
Julian. Come back to us.
Yeah. The 80 carry meta right now, not much to say. Lucian is probably going to be still picked. You're going to build up the runes a little different on him, but if you're going for an early game bully, Lucian's definitely the call. But if you want to scale up and go for team fights, go for a crit 80 carry, like Jinx or Sivir. I'm actually a little surprised we haven't seen too many Tristanas who are just absolutely.
I think
great.
Tristana's bad. I don't know. I think Tristana's so bad.
She's
right
good
now.
at taking
I think-
turrets, and if you have a good support that can get you up to the turret, then you're gonna destroy all the platings and get a lot of gold, and that's a good snowball.
Yeah, that's fair.
But she's weak, so
Yeah.
As someone who likes to roam a lot, I actually enjoy playing with Tristana once she gets to level 6, just because of her ability to be able to reposition, to be able to get away from any kind of ganks, and being able to enable that really allows like Moby supports really to be able to like gank mid lane or even make the surprising gank in top lane to be able to create leads elsewhere. So it's not only does she scale, but she's also very safe too.
right.
So I kind of think that some of the lower elo AD carries might want to consider her, at least if they have a capable support who's very effective at roaming.
Fair points.
We got a question from Aether Fox saying, "What do you think about Callista?" And honestly, I think she's really good right now and is a very good Sivir counter. But I don't know if anybody actually has any game time honor. And Kalista's one of those, you have to play at least 100 games in order to get the hang of it. And if you don't, then you're just gotta lose lane because you don't know how to play her.
I gotta say, I've never seen a person who's played Kalista be bad at any other AD carry champion. That's like one of those, like, if you can play that, you can play pretty much every other AD carry.
Yeah. I will say, I think Corki's absolutely busted right now. And
The
I
bot
hope
lane?
to see him. No, more in the mid lane.
Or mid lane, yeah. I hope to see more of that.
You just win lane when you pick Corki, and then you can help roam with the package and UW. So
Yeah, super annoying lane harass. I mean, easy farm and then an escape. It's like super
What more do
strong
you want?
laner. I don't know why more people aren't picking him up. I mean, maybe that has to do with the fact that a lot of mid laners aren't used to playing AD carries, but Corki almost plays more like a caster anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised to see more of it.
yeah, and I do know Gulen used to play a lot of it, I believe. So I'd be interested to see if Air picks it up for Sunday.
I've heard legends of it, but I will not say whether or not.
And Cop, coming back at you, the Thresh nerf. So his Q, basically, if you didn't hear, got increased cooldown from levels 1 through 4. Level 5 is the same. So do you think that's going to push out Thresh at the meta? Or
Well, actually, they buffed Thresh a while ago to get, and originally that was actually his cooldowns for his hook. So if you're actually familiar with Thresh prior to this change, then you're probably going to be fine. I think there's a lot of counterpick champions to Thresh in the meta that just aren't really being played as much in the rec league that actually can take him down pretty effectively. So I wouldn't say he's necessarily one of the best supports as of right now, but it's just a question of like who's going up against these Thresh players.
right. All right. And we did talk about that tanks, in the support role at least, have done very, very well. And it seems like everyone prefers just to have tanks in every single role, except for AD carry, of course. So, who knows? Maybe we'll just bring back our own League of Tanks. All right.
Yeah, definitely.
We're probably going to open up to Twitch chat right now. If you have any questions you want to ask about the games next Sunday, about the meta, if you want to ask questions individually to people, feel free. I got one from the Sox fan. How is 420 Blazing Nerd 69? And I will say, on Sunday, he looked absolutely like a beast. Played out of his mind. How is he right now? I should probably say, from his name, absolutely stoned.
I just feel like that's a bit of a self-serving question. I'm not sure why I think that, but I wonder when we will see the first person on the topic of hashtag Graves and Mord ? I wonder when the first time we'll see a non-AD carry champion come out, like a Victor or Vlad or I would say Yasuo, but I'm not allowing Quaz to ever do that, and basically is no longer playing AD carry for them. So, but I wonder when, as the LCK casters would say, when we see their first awesome dude in the AD carry role, and who it will be.
I played Corki. That's a caster mid laner, right?
I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I guess I forgot about that. But I feel like, you know, like a real mage. No,
Who will it
Tim,
be?
no.
Well, like a Cassiopeia.
Yeah, like Cassiopeia or Victor or Vlad or Yasuo. Go away, Tim. I don't know. No.
I think it'll be Mouse Mazing. He pulls it out.
I can see that, especially since he was a jungler before this, and
Yeah,
I think he's
that'll be
still
the
a
first
jungle
one.
main.
He's a top lane main, actually.
Oh, never mind.
He is a Trinivir one-trick top lane main.
I think he'll pull out something spicy.
Yeah. Actually, Rovian might just play some like crazy AP mage like Zyra or something bot lane.
Not happening. Shu will agree with me.
I've heard his Nico is pretty good as an APC. I don't know. Maybe you might want to let that through.
Yeah, no. How's the
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything because I have absolutely nothing to spoil. But you know, my team could definitely consider it in the future. But it feels like it's fallen out of the meta, but I don't feel like it's fallen out of the meta for a reason other than AD carries are back to relevance, which is why it originally became meta. But with AD carries being relevant, it doesn't mean that the mages and bruisers and things aren't also relevant. So I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen a single pick of it besides the Corki, which is still an AD carry. But
I think people are nervous for their late game like DPS.
True.
I think that's a big part of it, and I mean, aren't a lot of the AD carries in the rec league right now just strictly like mid to low elo AD carries, so maybe not as comfortable playing like a mage or an alternate kind of champion in their lane if they really only play marksman. So that
I'm
might be
telling
part
you,
of
man.
it, though.
Rovian, 100%. Gonna pull something out. Zabel's just saying that so we don't get to see any secrets.
I will not.
I don't know if anyone saw this the other night, but there was actually an LCK game. It was Genji versus Griffin, where they actually had Yasuo Alistair versus Cassiopeia and Thresh.
That's amazing.
So not only did they like not have any AD carries, but just completely like all in with the mid laners at bot.
Yeah, and Cassiopeia in LCK has been crazy right now, right? She's just destroying bot lane.
She was pick banned, but she got some nerfs, so she's less pick banned. She's still kind of rigged though.
Yeah. All right. Are there any other questions that you would like answered right now? Because if not, we're probably just going to sign off since this went a lot longer than expected.
Right.
I have nothing to add personally. I mean, I would like to say that it's been fun, and I'm looking forward to you giving me double buffs on Sunday, Taka. But other than that, you know.
Cop, do you have any closing statements?
Just thank everyone for coming by and just supporting the Rec League and just coming to watch this great stream.
All right, thank you. Zabel, closing comments?
I'm hyped for our first game this Sunday. I think most of the teams are pretty balanced, and it's definitely going to be a really fun season. Just glad everybody came out to watch the first episode, and stay tuned for more spice next week.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming out again. Remember to tune in on Sunday for all the games starting at 4 o'clock. And like, subscribe, follow the Rec League on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all the things. And stay tuned. Feel free to message me or Zabel if you have picks for this upcoming week that you want stored into memory. And we'll might do something fun with like a prize or something at the end of the year. And yeah, have a good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Good night.